Episode 29 is the Abaranger tribute, and while they already have Abaranger's grand power, there's more to it that they don't know. Abare Blue comes back for this episode, along with the Abaranger's companion, Emery, who later became his secretary and eventually they got married. It's actually pretty sweet. It's also been a while since I've seen Abaranger, and while watching this episode, I totally forgot this. The fifth or sixth Abaranger, Abare Pink, the made-up Abaranger that Emery made up that we saw on screen for one episode. You know what? Actually, let's think about this for a moment. Maybe this episode's ahead of its time, because how long has fan art been a thing where you can share it online? Well, this was 2011, and shoot, she even made her own Ranger key.
That went unappreciated by Ayum and had to pass on fighting.
What do I say? This is the only instance when Abare Killer is seen as a Six Ranger because of OC Do Not Steal. So, the other half of Abaranger's grand power is Gokaiger being able to combine with Gozujin. And when I say combine, I mean Gokaiger swaps out blue and green for Gozujin's arms. Moving on, episode 30. It's my favorite episode and my favorite tribute episode. Why, you might ask? Because it's the Live Man episode, and Live Man is my favorite Sentai. The veteran we get coming back is Yellow Lion, Joe, and he meets Ayam and Joe as they encounter the Zenyak, abducting athletes to convert them into robots like Barizorg.
The Monster of the Week who originally created Barizorg dropped his blueprints, and Gokaiger Joe asked Live Man Joe to see if there was any way to turn Sid back to normal. And unfortunately, there isn't. Once you get converted, all the human parts die, only leaving the skills of the victim.
And it's devastating. But words from Joe inspire him, speaking from his experiences with his classmates who were the villains of Live Man. Just because you can't save the person doesn't mean you can't save their soul. And as the episode goes on, we see Live Man's grand power be Super Live Robo. And man, I wish they didn't just use it against giant minions and instead used it to kill the monster. Because if you've seen Live Man, you know Super Live Robo is that OP. It's like the Ultrazord from Mighty Morphin. Once you call for it, the fight's over in one move. Episode 31 is the O-Ranger tribute. O-Ranger's organization, UAOH, have been up to date on Bosco's activities, and as of now, he's up to 3 grand powers: Mask Man, Change Man, and Flash Man. The O-Ranger's plan was for O-Red, Goro, to meet up with Bosco to do a trade, but really trick him into taking back the grand powers, while Momo, O-Pink, distracts the Gokaigers and eventually give them O-Ranger's grand power if Goro failed. So they turn it down, as they don't like being deceived and want to take it the right way. Frankly, had they just been honest from the start, they probably have been more willing to cooperate, especially if it means taking out Bosco. And so, the Gokaigers turn into O-Ranger and defeat and collect all of Bosco's Ranger keys using the Ole Bazooka, which in turn is their grand power. After they collected the keys, they set their sights on Bosco, and Bosco shows why you don't fuck with him, revealing his monster form. And with it, the first thing he does is break Guy's arm, and then proceeds to walk through the Gokaigers, ending the episode. Like, Bosco's a problem. And when he breaks Guy's arm, he might have implied that he always wanted to do that. specifically to him. Like, and the fact that the episode ends with just the Gokaigers defeated, and Bosco, while he might have lost, he at least shows why you don't mess with him. Like, terrifying. Just, oh my god. Well, episode 32. Inspired by the last episode, Dawn creates a new weapon for the team. The only piece missing was O-Ranger's grand power, and thus we have the Gokai Galleon Buster. I like the cannon. The fact that it mimics like the Gokai Galleon ship, it's awesome. And I love that the blast from it takes the shape of a pirate ship about to pierce through you. Just everything with this is pretty cool. Shoot. And another cool thing is that the cool thing is each ranger, specifically Red, could use their keys as the default one to charge up the cannon. Like, depending on the episode, everyone at least like gets put up front and we'll hear a blue charge, pink charge, green charge, special charge for silver. Like, someone will eventually take the lead in charging up the cannon, all except Luca, for whatever reason. We never hear a yellow charge. That's strange. But episode 33, we are now at the Die Ranger tribute, and we meet Ryu Ranger. He interacts with Guy while he lost his Gokai Cellular due to a monster until he gets it back. And I believe Die Ranger is one of the grand powers the Gokaigers gained during the 199 movie. So, this is just a nice episode to watch. And I'll say this, in some tribute episodes, we'll see Sentai veterans fight without their powers. And Ryo from Die Ranger does that. And I swear he mimics his teammates' fighting styles too. And do their roll call out of suit, which all alone is amazing. This episode is actually pretty nice for Guy to remember what being a hero is all about. It's not just about the powers, but doing good. So, episode 34 is a filler episode, but we learn the story of when Luca joined Marvelous's crew, back when she was a thief robbing the Zenyak. Fun fact, a side character for this episode is the actor who played the Nazca Dopant in KamenRider W. Here he plays an old friend of Luca's who got roped into a Zenyak scheme. And so now, episodes 35 and 36, the Go-Onger episodes. Okay. So, what brings these episodes down a point? That would be Sasuke, Go on Red. And I'll admit, it's been a long time since I've seen Go-Onger, but for anyone who hasn't seen Go-Onger at all, here's a little snippet of it, and it's that Sasuke's an idiot.
I'm not joking. He decides to go help another world in danger. He forgets to ask for his Ranger key back. A dimensional rift's in the sky to get him to his destination. His big idea is a trampoline.
Considering what Go-Onger's grand power turns out to be, Sasuke is the best person to explain it, but the problem is he contributes nothing and just acts like a goofy goober the whole time. I'll admit, it's been a long time since I've watched Go-Onger. I did not like Sasuke in these episodes. Thankfully, the main three engines are there, so all of our nostalgia attention does not have to go to Sasuke. So the two-parter is all about a remnant of the Guy arc tricking the Gokaigers into a trap by invading one world for the Gokaigers to liberate, while the second Guy arc president, Baba Chido, trapped them from coming back to human world. Baba Chido is basically the main villain from the Shinkenger Go-Onger team-up movie, But wait, no. This is a different person. His name is possibly spelled or pronounced differently than it was in the movie. Apparently, the only way to tell him apart from there is they swapped his arms around. I don't know. It's just... So, to get back to human world, they get around through machine world, and since the engines are still too injured from a previous battle, they decide to find Speedor and BRV's son, Macaulkin, for help.
Yes, Speedor and BRV, Red and Yellow's mechs, are married and have a child together.
How did a race car and an RV have a kid?
Very carefully.
Like, do they grind each other's gears?
Very carefully.
I have questions.
They get to Machine World to find Macaulkin, and the only one able to reason with him is Marvelous. So with Macaulkin's help, he breaks the barrier, and they get back to Human World to foil Babachito's ambitions. And as for Goanger's grand power, it turns out to be Macaulkin for partnering with Marvelous.
Goanger gets quite the homage, having Gokaiger open up to reveal an engine cast and engine soul to insert inside the cast, like in Goanger when the Rangers summoned their engines.
And thus we have Go On Gokaiger. So, episodes 37 and 38. The Empire, and more so the Prince, has had it with the Gokaigers constantly interfering. So today, Wars' father, the Emperor, lends assistance in the form of his elite guards, which are basically Sugorman, but they're red, and an evil mech called the Great Wars. This and the next episode are also the conclusion to the Joe and Barizorg storyline, as once the Zanyak calls them out, Barizorg's leading the charge, and Joe sets his sights to end and save his friend. The battle leads to Wars Gills coming down to Earth himself to pilot the Great Wars to annihilate his enemies.
They fight valiantly, but the Great Wars is too powerful for them, and to protect his crew, Marvelous ejects everyone from the ship against their wishes, while he takes the blast from the Great Wars.
While we're moving on, my favorite aspect of this two-parter is the depth everyone gets, from our heroes to our villains. On one hand, the prince is willing to get his hands dirty to prove to everyone he's not just some nepo baby son of the emperor. He needs to be the one to defeat his enemies. And on the other hand, we have our heroes and their personal conflicts, Joe and Barizorg, Guy and Marvelous, with how they view what they're doing, fighting the Zanyak. To Guy, of course, it's being heroes and doing the right thing, but to Marvelous, it's so much deeper.
To protect comes at a cost, like what Akka Red did for Marvelous to keep his and their dream alive, which is what Marvelous thought he was doing when he injected everyone off.
Don't get me wrong, he was still wrong to do that, and the show acknowledges it. All for one and one for all. That's how it's gotta be. Speaking of one, Joe and Barizorg have their final battle, and with getting back to his friends on his mind, Joe handles up, not taking any damage from Barizorg until he gets close enough to deflect an attack right back at him to kill him once and for all. And with that, Barizorg's dead, but Sid's soul is free at last. So everyone regroups back up, with Marvelous apologizing, and they have their second wind to face the Great Wars.
The fight goes back to the macro scale, and the team receives a Hail Mary. The Gokaigers obtain their own grand power. Said grand power is their ultimate combination, consisting of Gokaiger, Gozujin, and Macaulkin, called Kanzen Gokaiger.
I like how it looks up top. I don't like the feet. It's because it's the rear binders on a Formula race car, so the feet look like this. And to me, it just looks awkward. But aside from that, for an ultimate combination, this ought to be the most powerful mech the Gokaigers have in their arsenal because it consists of 5 grand powers: Zoo Ranger, Time Ranger, Abba Ranger, Go-Onger, and their own.
And with Kanzen Gokaiger, the Great Wars is defeated, and the prince meets his demise.
The next 2 tribute episodes are to Mega Ranger and Time Ranger. For Mega Ranger, we meet Mega Red, Kenta, who's a teacher now at his old high school. I like that for him. It really shows the kind of impact his friends / teammates had on him to become a teacher. And by the end of the episode, they get Mega Ranger's grand power, which we'll see later is Mega Silver's mech, Mega Winger, worn as a flight pack for Gozujin. And so, episode 40, the Time Ranger episode, it opens up with Gozu Drill sent to the Gokai Galleon by Time Yellow, Domon. Through a holographic message, he has a mission for the Gokaigers to go back in time a year ago to protect a specific shrine from getting destroyed in exchange for a grand power. Okay, this next part's interesting.
The day they go back in time to is when the Gokaigers and the Shinkengers had their team up. Now remember, in that team up, the Gokaigers made their next Sentai cameo and proceed to take out the Gidoshu, including Octoru.
I don't know his Shinkenger name, but the squid guy. But it turns out it was some Gokaiger villains that were out to destroy the shrine. There's also this kid who ran away from home because he wanted to avoid moving. And with Guy there, the kid's kept safe and so is the shrine. It turns out that Domon wasn't the only Time Ranger character brought back. The kid's mother is actually an old girlfriend of Domon's, who is a recurring character in Time Ranger. And if you've seen the final episode of Time Ranger, then you know. They had a kid at the end of the show that Domon never knew about. Until now. That's their kid. So not only did Domon send the Gokaigers back in time to collect something that'll come into play later, but he also saved his son's life. This would break you down. Like, Guy leaves a picture in the Gozu drill to send back to the future, and when Domon finds the picture, he remembers his girlfriend, and then he looks at his son, and he just knows. Episode 41, Emperor Actos Gills finally takes the stage, bringing his elite guards to take charge. In fact, one of his personal guards is the episode's Monster of the Week, while the other, Darandal, is a new general, mainly replacing Damaris as he's sent to the dungeon for failing to protect the prince. So aside from that, this is an IM focused episode, and by sheer coincidence, the monster of the episode is the one who destroyed IM's planet and murdered her family right in front of her. And it's here we learn her story of how she joined Marvelous's crew while meandering out in space. The best highlight of the episode is when IM partners up with people to strike at the monster, and they change into specific duos. Like, when she partners up with Guy, her and him become the Go On Wings. When she partners up with Dawn, they become the Go Riders. When she partners with Luca, they become Gosei Yellow and Gosei Pink. When she partners with Joe, they become Deca Master and Deca Swan. And with Marvelous, they both become Shinken Red and just wail on the monster with Red Gadai Zantos. And so, episodes 42 and 43, Damaris is given a chance to redeem himself and avenge the prince by going after the Gokaigers. And to ensure his success, he recruits Bosco for his assistance. Damaris, being the strongest man in the universe, walks through the Gokaigers with little to no problem. Shoot, Bosco's presence actually makes things worse, supposedly killing Luca, Guy, Iam, and Joe. And the episode ends with Marvelous abducted and Joe spared. Well, no, not Joe. Don spared, because Don's considered the weak link, so they think he's not going to do anything. Shoot, this two-parter is actually a combined Don-focused episode about him being the weakest on the team. Part of episode 42 was actually a prank Don was pulling on everyone for hazing him out in battle. But next episode, he ponies up, saving Marvelous all by himself. Like, honestly, this is Don's best episode, where he truly shows courage where it counts, because him charging at a whole platoon by himself is awesome. It's worth respect for the one they chose to spare. So, thanks to Don's diversion, Marvelous is saved, and everyone else didn't die. Apparently, Bosco faked killing everyone and had Sally move everyone elsewhere to please Damaris. For the greatest treasure in the universe, he'll need them alive for something. So, the crew's back together and Damaris is defeated. My favorite part of the battle is when they used the Gokai Galleon Buster twice, and the second time it was Green Charge to kill Damaris. Yes. So, episode 44. It's the Christmas episode. This episode is only worth mentioning because of two things. One, the once-a-year appearance of Gokai Christmas. Guy literally took Marvelous's and Don's keys and fused them together because red and green are Christmas colors. I think this Ranger key was actually so too, but wow. Gokai Christmas. And two, while it's not a Battle Fever J tribute, the episode ends with them getting Battle Fever J's grand power because Kenji Oba as Balkenya was dressed up as Santa Claus and ran into Luke and Guy earlier. So, episodes 45 and 46, they are the Kaku Ranger episodes, and here's where the shrine from the Time Ranger episode comes into play. The next grand power they're looking for is Kaku Ranger, and so they go back to the shrine and find Ninja Man trapped in a bottle again. So had they not protected the shrine back then, they wouldn't have been able to obtain Kaku Ranger's grand power, which turned out to have been Ninja Man. What a full circle. In hindsight, for Kaku Ranger, what else would have been their grand power? And so Tsuruhime, Ninja White, actually would have been the one to meet the Gokaigers, but Ninja Man beat her to the punch, so she just let it be.